Welcome to the Going Green podcast. Today we're going to have a look at the consequences of doing nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah, everything is so bad. Yeah, all this climate change, it's causing fires and it's causing floods.
I know,
Yeah, but
it's
what's the point of doing anything? Yeah, I could turn down the heating a little bit, I suppose. I
you
know
can
it's summer, but
I know you can wash on the 30 as the adverts say.
yeah, what's
Uh,
every 30 years?
no.
Oh, all right, okay. I could buy myself an electric car, but how's that going to change anything? Yeah, basically, what's the point of me doing
I mean
anything? Yeah,
I
why bother?
I mean, we haven't been doing anything for the last 50 years, right? So what's the point of doing anything
Yeah,
now?
so it's not going to make much difference now, is it? If we don't do anything, yeah, like we can just carry on the way we are, because yeah, I can't do anything that'll make any difference. And yeah, I know there are some little floods in places, but I live on a hill, so I'm all right. And this climate change malarkey, well, yeah, so we get a few nicer days. That sounds all right to me. It's not bothering me really if it's a bit nicer,
Yeah.
or is it?
It's, it's one of those odd things where you sort of say, well, I can live with the sea level rising by, I don't know, nearly 1.5 feet or 1.8 feet if it's the bad thing. And I'm like going, okay, well, we live on the hill. It's not too bad. And
I didn't know you worked in feet.
on the contrary, I'm reading something in it's in feet. So
Oh,
I
I
can't say
see. I
I
see.
can't convert.
I thought you were the scientist and did everything in meters and
Well, I can't convert 1.5 feet into metric.
you can't.
No, I don't know what a foot is.
A foot is about 30 centimeters. So we're looking at probably somewhere around about between 40 and 50 centimeters.
Right, half a meter. Right. Okay. There
Half
you
a
go.
meter.
There you go. It's half a meter. Yeah. We're talking about, um, rising temperature. These heat waves we keep getting.
But they're nice. I like them. I like the nice little heat waves. It sort of, keeps me going. Sort of a temperature up by about sort of 27. It means I get me washing dry.
Yeah.
I can also make nice lot of solar here.
Well, yes. I mean, the nice hot sunny weather. Well, technically, you need hot sunny weather, but I've never said you could get actually sunnier weather. I just said hotter weather.
No.
I know it's a bit disappointing because one of the major things, of course, is hotter weather means more evaporation in the oceans, which of course leads more to more rain. We need rain. Rain's good for the crops, aren't they?
Yeah, and as well as being rain for that, it wouldn't be England if it wasn't raining in the summer, would it be? I remember August, where we had a holiday and it rained every day. That is part of being sort of in England. That's why I don't take holidays on a beach. I go and take holidays on something like a canal where it doesn't matter if it's sort of piddling down with rain because fairly normal.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
I know. It's one of those things where you just see you see the weather is getting more extreme, but that's all right. You know,
But it's not extreme in England, is it? This is the thing. It's not extreme in England. England is this nice green and pleasant land, as the sort of hymn goes. It's sort of, yeah, we got no problems. And yeah, I've seen this stuff on the TV about other countries having problems, but is that fake news?
well, I don't know. Definitely don't think the flooding's fake at all. I reckon it's but Bangladesh floods all the time, and it keeps flooding. They should really do something about that.
God, isn't it a bad argument, this?
I,
This
I,
idea of just doing nothing. And you get this idea of doing nothing by talking to quite a lot of people. And they are our views. These are views of people we talk to about, well, why should I bother? What is the purpose of doing anything? You know, I can't make any difference myself. I do this, I do that, but it's not going to make any difference to the whole world. Or will it? Paul.
Hello. Hi, I'm here. Yes. Well,
So what are your thoughts on this?
well, the major points is the problem with climate change is the fact that it's over a long time. You know, people aren't seeing the effects now. Well, we are actually seeing the effects now, but that's a different matter in the motif. But it's not what's now. It's in the year 20,
Well, 2100 even.
2100.
I'll be dead.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Thank you.
But no, what I was trying to get was that it is in that time. Well, we can't do what we do now, if that makes any sense, in relation to, the air we breathe will be different. Yes, it'd be different. But at the problem, obviously, well, suddenly, are we going to have to be wearing aspirators all the time? You see all these things where they have to do. There was that famous film where they did some time travel or something, and they went out and aspirate, and then went back in time, and it was
They enjoyed breathing real air.
real air. Yeah, it was something hilariously silly like that. But that is one of the major points of it is that the air will be different and be more contaminated if we don't do anything about it. This is looking at the future, and we as a species are bad looking at the future because, of course, we need to, do now. We need to feed ourselves now. We need to be able to make a living now. We're future planning. Oh, that's
Okay, yeah. So let's tell a little story then. The year is 2100. The 21st century draws to a close. No one's done anything to affect climate change. So the global temperatures have risen over 4 degrees Celsius. In many countries, the temperatures are normally above 40 degrees C all year round. You get heat waves of 50 or even higher. Not in this country, of course, but yeah. Every summer, there are wildfires across every continent except Antarctica.
it doesn't have anything.
Well, there aren't any trees to burn. Yeah, that's why. There's not much grass to burn either. Although much of the Antarctic is actually now a green country rather than a white country.
Yes, so think Greenland or Iceland rather than anything else.
Yeah, Green-tarctica.
Green-tarctica, oh, lovely.
Yeah. There are plumes of acrid smoke that makes breathing outdoors unbearable, which causes the annual sort of health crisis, and we've got lots of problems there. The temperatures on the other hand, of the oceans are really quite balmy. I can actually put my foot in the English Channel without sort of the icebergs eating it.
Yeah, I was going to say without screaming.
Yeah. You've been with me to the beach, haven't you? Yes. I run into the sea and I run out faster than I went in. The Australian Great Barrier Reef, that died quite a few years ago, really. This is 2100. There are sort of frequent and prolonged droughts. America sort of has this rather small dust bowl called the Midwest.
Yes.
The Arctic, of course, is free of sea ice every summer, and even in the winter, you can still cross it quite happily. The average temperatures in the far north are over 8 Celsius. Yeah, brilliant. The water's nice and deep as well. This is really quite good. We've got sort of wonderful sort of skiing in. Oh, yeah. It's only in Greenland now. The north of Greenland is where you can go skiing. It's the only place you can actually do it. um, because the Himalayas, all the ice has disappeared off that, and there were a few people. I think it was about 600 million people relying on that water. Um, they don't get that now,
Yeah, well,
but they don't live there, so it's not really a problem.
exactly.
Um, you don't go to Hong Kong anymore. You don't visit Rio de Janeiro. You don't go to Miami because, well, they're all flooded. And I mean, sort of flooded really deep. So
Yeah,
it's not a problem.
just to put that into context, estimated 3 meters above, well, current sea level. By the way, that's how high that.
Yeah, yeah, but we're still nice. So basically, we get these lovely winter storms every year. They're more energetic than ones that you've met before, and they cause a lot of wind damage because we get over 200-mile-an-hour winds in much of the world. Flooding is very common, well, just about everywhere. So some places, I've even been told, get sustained wind speeds of over 200 miles an hour.
Oh,
Wow, that's really good. Yeah,
record
you could.
breaking.
Well, yeah. Apart from the plane to fly there, which is incredibly quick getting there, but incredibly slow getting back home,
Or is it the other way around?
or it could be. Depends which way you want to go. We've got this. It's great. Yeah. There's a lot of problems, I suppose, getting food and water.
Oh, we don't
And
need that.
it's not really a big problem because we've buried billions of people now, and the Earth's population is a lot smaller, and we're coping with that quite nicely. Um, Over half the land that used to be used for agriculture isn't now, and so basically, that's why we haven't got so many people around.
No, don't need them.
There's a problem with fish, I suppose. Yeah, the increased acidity of the oceans did get rid of quite a lot of the fish. I heard that in the 20s, 2030s, fish were abundant, but now, it's you play the new game of called Spot the Fish. Um, there are some really good diseases that we get in this country now. We get this thing called malaria in this
Oh,
country
yes,
because
yum.
the Anopheles mosquito has sort of taken up residence in around the marshlands of this place called London.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
and of course in this lagoon that calls East Anglia.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Good, 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 good.
So
Good
that's quite
holiday
nice.
there.
Yeah, yeah. It's not good, is it?
It's not the most, I wouldn't say picturesque or romantic or I don't know. It's just one of those things where I'm
You
not.
you didn't think I was painting a really good picture here.
I mean,
You were hoping that I was going to sort of give you a much more balmy, sort of wonderful.
the picture was lovely. Sort of, the winds that I sort of, fly a kite man.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You can actually fly using your own kite. You don't have to sort of.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
all these things, but it is one of those things where that's where we're heading to. That's where if we do nothing, that's where we're doing because that's basically you plot the trout and it's just going up. And
But doing very little or doing piecemeal activities at doing this, or just some countries doing just some of those things, is basically what we want. So I was going to send it over to you,
oh
but
right,
okay.
sorry. Yeah, well, you were talking anyway, but yes, it is. Yeah, you see all these things happening. I was reading that just very recently, and this is a slightly off topic, is that the International Space Station had to do a small maneuver. Just so they did in November. Yeah, that's all.
Oh, they weren't having to move further in orbit, so they get the same distance from the sea level.
No, no,
All right, okay.
nothing. No, and all they were doing was just avoiding some space debris, of course, that was caused by a Russian missile test because they shot down a satellite. and basically they were just all this debris was in the air that they did it. Yeah, it was no problem. It was no, but
You've been watching that film again, haven't you? Okay.
anyway, but yeah, they avoided it. No problem. No, but they did say we now have to plan for this. We have to now adjust everything, and it's a pain because, well, we told them not to, but they did it without. Yeah, they just did it because they wanted to. They did it because, well,
They could.
they could, as opposed to thinking about the consequences of their actions. Yeah, this is the whole problem with climate change. We've done all this pollution, we've done all this infrastructure, we've built all these cool, clever technology. Right? We've got the smartphone, calculator in our pockets, and now we're like, well, should we have had it? What's wrong with the pen and paper? What was wrong with doing that? Because now, math skills are down because there's always a calculator in my pocket. I don't need to panic about. I was trying. Someone was trying to do 72 plus 18, and I said, "Well, surely it's 90." And said, "Well, I could have done the maths, but I was too lazy to do it, so I just got something else to think it for me." And I was
Yeah,
like,
it's almost more effort sometimes to get the calculator out and sort of press the buttons than it is just to think about the sum.
I know.
Yeah. But then I learnt things like 7/8, whereas a lot of students don't know that. But let's look at another point here. Doing nothing is actually going to cost not our country, but all countries more than spending some money now and acting on the change.
Well, yes, this is always the you hear about these things that sort of you hear how climate disasters cost a lot of money, and they do. We've seen previous disasters. Let's say Hurricane Katrina. We've seen all the ones, the typhoon, Haiyan. Uh, Haiyan. Yes,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
right. Okay, well, we'll just glance over it. But we saw these things coming through and how much cost they took to clean up and fix and all the devastation. Yeah, I'm talking, right? And how long it took to fix it all. However, if in Katrina's circumstance, they said if a flood defense was built, a seawall, or more precisely a large, not canal, but a wall, then a ditch, normal flood prevention.
Yeah.
They said 60% of the damage could have been avoided.
And you look at how much damage you've got and how many lives were lost. And you have to ask one simple little question, I suppose, which is how much is a life worth? And for some people, they don't think many people are worth much. So we ask a different question is how much is your life worth? And to you, your life is probably worth, well, everything. You would probably sort of almost give the world for your life.
Yeah, the common thing is you hear, my kingdom for a horse is the classic one.
I'd prefer a car, but
Well, yeah, well, I mean, the quote is from
yes,
but it was sort of anything to just get me out of here sort of situation, or my life isn't worth. You can have my kingdom, but
if I can have my life, yes.
yes, yeah,
And this is part of the problem that people's lives are worth it, but do governments necessarily look at that? Unfortunately, people are statistics to a lot of governments, and they just talk about various statistics that the temperature's risen so much, the water level's risen so much. It doesn't come down to the how is this affecting a person's life? That now you can't live in your house because the sea level's risen a bit and it's taken away that bit of cliff that was right next to your house. And now either your house is falling or fallen into the sea. We're having that problem in East Anglia, and the government is making decisions that should they put sea defences in here or there, or should they do it everywhere? or do they just accept that, well, we can't really do much about this little bit?
Well, yes, yeah, you see the common thing when they actually dig up whole houses and move it sort of 100 meters more inland. You see all
Well,
that.
that only saves you a few weeks, doesn't it?
Well, I was going to say a few
Yeah,
years,
yeah, it
but
is a few
it's
years,
not.
yes.
But it's more the sort of what they've actually done is actually put you higher up on the land, so therefore it's better for. But you see all this coastal erosion, which is all natural. It's all fine. That's a natural process that will happen. That hasn't been. Oh wait, it has been sped up because the sea level's higher.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's attacking new fresh,
And the storms are worse.
and the storms are worse.
So we're getting, bigger, harder storms. When I watched with interest when the Thames Barrier was built, and in the first year, I think it was used sort of
I think it was
once
twice
or
in the
twice,
first
yeah.
years, but it wasn't. It was one of the things where it was raised once a year.
Whether they needed to or not,
Yeah,
almost,
yeah.
yeah.
And then over the last, so what, 2000? Oh, I'm going to look.
You're going to have to look it up to give us the exact numbers, but in the last few years, they've raised the barrier a lot more. That's because we just suddenly thought of this one as we were going along. It's my fault, isn't it? I don't stick always to the script. So the Thames barrier has been used more and more. Now, are we going to need perhaps a new Thames barrier built further down the coast? A much larger, bigger, deeper sort of thing.
Ha! I have the numbers.
You have the numbers. Go on then.
So it was built in 1984.
Yes.
So in the 20 years, so till the millennium, it was raised approximately 22 times. So effectively,
I would say
once a year.
exactly 22 times, but that's just me being awkward.
Well, one of those things. Anyway, so in then past the millennium, it's been raised, and it's one of those things where you've got to do the raise fully as opposed to not. Okay, it's been raised a total of nearly. It says 55 times, but I actually think that was the number in 2019.
So by 2019, it'd been done sort of double that number of times that it had been done in the previous 20 years. So you can see that things are getting just a little bit worse. And we're not talking about a lot of change here. We're only talking about 1.2 degrees at the moment. And 1.2 degrees, and we're worrying about 1.5. We're going to almost certainly hit 1.5. It's can we now keep it below 2? Because government inaction, not our government, all government inaction is sort of slowing down the rise to, well, it's not slowing it down enough, is it? We're not slowing down quickly enough.
No, and the major problem is you say you complain that you take like the Bangladesh, right? They flood nearly every year, and it's sort of like what? Why isn't Bangladesh doing something about the flooding? And the answer is
They are.
they are, because they're having to. But you ask them, but can you build something when it's flooded? And the answer is you can't.
You could only build it when it's
When it's dry.
Yeah.
I say dry, right. And then it asks me, when isn't it flooded? And I'll ask, you could say,
and all right. So I will ask you, Paul. When isn't Bangladesh flooded?
well, for the last 3 years, it has. It's all the areas that have been flooded for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's the state of play they've been living in because, of course, the sea level has been rising, and that's basically the new, the new river, the new waterway is where the flood water is, because that's
Yeah. So
it's got
that's
no
the new
place to
the
go,
new boundary, isn't
the new
it?
boundary. You see, so now do you build where you thought it was 3 years ago, or do you have to build it new places? So they're basically sort of not in action, but they cannot act with the lack of because where do they place it? Then you've got to find somewhere to almost mount your defensive. Where is your defensive line to start? And unfortunately, how Bangladesh is built and set up, and the geography of
Yeah.
Bangladesh, The answer is it's approximately sort of 50 or miles inland.
Yeah. It's below sea level. Some countries are below sea level. The Netherlands, for instance, they're below sea level, but they've got big dikes. So they expended the money on the dikes, and that has saved the country an awful lot of money. So invest now to save later. Now, doing nothing basically now is not an option. We've way past that. But doing nothing also costs more than actually trying to do something. And countries are arguing, oh, yeah, but we've just got over the pandemic. We've just got over this. We've got sort of other problems to try and deal with. Yeah, we've got problems. Russia's special operation on Ukraine is devastating that country. And it's also having the effects on Europe as they sort of impose sanctions. And then Russia says, right, you're not having our gas then.
But it's also in places like faraway countries in Africa,
Yeah.
who's got
Who,
nothing to do with, say, Europe or thing, and yet
they get no food.
they get no food, and they're going to lead to more famine. Now, by the way, not Ethiopia, Madagascar. There you go. I knew it was in line.
Yeah.
Madagascar. It's in a constant, I would say, they constant drought. In which case, there's not enough food out there, and so they reckon it's going to be famine out there.
They had famine this year.
Yeah,
Or last year.
sorry.
They're having famine this year.
So and that what they were already, and that's when things were good in respect.
Yeah.
And
And that's climate change. That is the weather there is now different than it was. You used to be able to rely on the rains coming to sort of water the crops. And now, well, it doesn't. And we're seeing the dust bowls starting to appear. And I joked a little bit about the American Midwest disappearing, but basically that could be true. And that may take the US a little while, but it will get there if we carry on with this inaction. We've got to really start radically making some differences. The differences aren't really, can we get this to stop at 1.5? But can we actually now bring it back below 1.5?
And it all starts if in actually all this, I say inaction, all this action starts from you. If you write to your person in charge of your government, or your elected official, or whoever you can moan at,
Harangue.
yeah, right, and you start voicing your opinion, say, why aren't you doing this, or why are we doing this, or and they might sort of, if they are a good populist government, as in they listen to the people. I'm not there with some of that, right? Then they might actually say, right, my people, the people want to do something. Let's actually do it.
But it won't work if you do it. It's only going to work if you do it and you get some friends to do it. And they get some more friends to do it. And if we can get the population starting to say, we need this, then the politicians listen. And then they can spend your money to try and save your world.
Yes.
So there's the message, really, isn't it? The consequences of doing nothing are going to cost far more than basically not doing anything. Yeah. So spend money now, save your world for later. You've been listening to the Going Green podcast, looking at the consequences of doing nothing. We could have gone on for a lot longer on this, but we've cut the script. And here we can see that we really do need to do something. Me, Paul, and you. We all need to do something. That was the wrong camera.
Yeah, well, I'll fix that.
So thank you for listening to the Going Green podcast. We will see you again next week when we'll do some more on going green. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Bye bye.
Bye.